What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Deexypher. I'm glad you could be here to join us for episode 3 of Sound Design with Deexypher. Hopefully by now you've checked out the first 2 episodes. In the first episode, we taught you how to turn 808s into kick drums. In the second episode, I showed you how to make hi-hats from scratch. Originally, I'd intended for today to be a snare drum lesson, but unfortunately that just didn't work out this way. So today we're going to do how to make 808s from scratch. Now in this version I'm using FL Studios as always. I'm using 3X oscillator, but you can do this with pretty much any synthesizer that has an oscillator, at least one oscillator and some sort of a noise generation. So without further ado, let's get into this, guys. Alright, so the first thing we've got here is we've got FL Studio open, and like I said, we want to load up 3X oscillator. If you're in another DAW, just make sure you have something with an oscillator on it, and again, like I said, some sort of noise generation ability. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to load up 3X. And now that we've got 3X loaded up here, we don't have to do a single thing. It is set right off the bat for how we want it. We're going to jump to the piano roll. And you're going to find a note, you're going to pick a note you want, and I suggest you scroll down to about the 3rd or the 4th octave instead of being in a 5, because a 5 is a little bit high, whereas if you're down in the 3rd or 4th octave, like you're seeing me kind of go through, that's the 4, this is the 5, I'm kind of scrolling down. I'm going to show you now, like I'll probably move into the 2, maybe even, or I'm sorry, the 3, maybe even the 2, depending on the note that I'm going to pick here. It's looking like it's going to be a G2 on this one. So we're going to go ahead and pull that out to the first bar and give it some tone here. Give it a little length. I'm sorry, the first half of a measure bar there. We're going to give it some length. And then we'll go through and we'll consolidate this down. And then once we have it consolidated, what we have is just a noise tone, so we can get rid of the MIDI. Take the noise tone, shape it. You want to take this out knob. First you want to set it to cut itself, which mine already was, so I used a channel that had already been used. You can normalize these. I generally normalize them first when it comes to 808s, and then I cut the out so that it's got some fade off on the end of it there. And then I'll come over and I'll play with the pre-computed effects a little bit. I'll see if there's anything in here that I want to add, maybe a little resonance, try tweaking the EQ a little bit. Sometimes I'll even play with a little stereo delay like you're seeing me do now, because sometimes it can add a little more bounce and vibration into your 808s. In this instance it didn't. Neither way, it's not really. Occasionally I'll check out Pogo on an 808 because sometimes it can give an 808 a really cool effect, like the one that I showed you guys the other day in the how to make 808s into kick drums. If you notice, there was an 808 that I used for using the end of an 808 that was like an 808 shaped like this, and then it waved back up. That was done through Pogo, so it's just, it'll give you an odd little kind of sound. And then I'm going to bring this over with 808s. I always jump to my mixer channels. Always jump to the mixer. I always jump and EQ them a little bit. So right here you're going to hear this bass tone hit every so often, because, and sound design can be kind of an annoying process sometimes, like listening to the same thing just go boom, 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 boom. But it's like a necessary evil that you have to do, so that's what you're seeing me do here, is I've got it literally just playing the one measure of that 808 over and over, and I'm EQing, I'm cutting a lot of the highs off. I'm going to boost these 2 low peaks right here to get a little more punch out of it. Then I'll pull in, generally I'll jump to a frequency splitter here, which it's so nice that FL has one of those now, because I had a third-party one for a long time that I didn't like that much, so I'll add some push with that frequency splitter. And then the last thing I always do on an 808 is I throw a limiter on them just to cut them down some, so that they're not so abrasive and rattly. They'll be a little more like this kind of a shape that you're seeing here, where they're just kind of barely peeking over the line. So mess around a bit here again. We'll take a look at some effects, maybe mess with the out a little bit. Didn't really like where that was going, so I'll move it back. Play with the length, see if there's anything there. Play with the trim a little bit. Oh, also, you're going to see me play with something really cool here in a second. It's not something I kept, but it's just a knob that I came across. It's called Crossfade. And it kind of creates this last little tail on an 808. So I might have an 808 that I throw in this pack that'll have that tail. And then I'm going to save it as a sample. Unfortunately, muscle memory takes over, and I always jump to fit to tempo first. Sorry guys, I'm messing up words a little bit. I still got a tooth back here that's giving me trouble. I had a wisdom tooth come in last weekend, so it's like just in that annoying spot where like when I'm talking I clack it and it kind of causes me to mess up words. So if you guys hear me making stumbles or stutters or anything, that's generally the reason for it, is that I'm clacking that tooth right now. So, and then this way, what I'm going to show you is what I call the Flex 808s. If you're not familiar with FL Studios, they have this program called Flex, and it's loaded full of stuff, and it comes right off the bat with a mobile 808 pluck. So you can pull 808s from there, which is what you're going to see me do right here. I'll pull an 808. And I like this way, especially when you're just learning how an 808 looks and what the wave shapes are like. This will really teach you like how your 808s can look and what the differences are. So by using Flex, like watch when I consolidate this down right here, I'm going to take this MIDI pattern, I'm going to consolidate it. Now you'll see that's a totally different looking 808 than what I had. And I'll still shape this one a little bit more just to my liking. I'll give it a little fade down like that. And really that's what this Flex plugin is based for, is like it's a set of 808s that you can use and play, but it's also a set of 808s that is kind of there to teach you how 808s work, how they go together, what they sound like, all that stuff. So, and if you guys haven't seen the first video and you're wondering how come you can see both my hands and the screen is moving, it's because, as I said in the first video, I'm only narrating this. I screen cap everything beforehand so I can work on it, and then I go back through and I narrate these. So you're seeing me do a little tweaking here. Now this is where I use my other form of when it comes to doing flex basses, I use a different form of what I do in the mixer track here, which is I don't EQ them anymore because they're already an EQ'd 808. All I'll do is I'll affect them a little bit. So like I'm gonna throw this 1K. I think I'm gonna start with this one, which is a New York compressor, just to give them a little punch. And then I'll throw another instance of patcher on here, and this one will be some distortion. If you guys aren't familiar with the 1K knobs, I'll do a whole series on these. I know there's a lot of stuff about them, but I really, really like the 1K knobs. So, see me pull it way far and push it back again until I find the spot I like, which is right there. And then, of course, the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in and I'm going to throw a limiter on. And these thankfully don't take a lot of limiting. I just like to cut these down a little bit, again, just so they're not so abrasive. They're a little more subby. And then we'll, of course, click the wrong thing. And then we're going to make it unique as a sample here. We'll save this one out. And that'll be the second 808. This will be the Flex 808 that we're doing here. If I could ever figure out what I was trying to do. For whatever reason, my brain just wasn't. I do a lot of this at like 2:30 in the morning, so when you guys see me clicking the wrong things and stuff, it's just the wear and tear of the day. I'm doing these last thing, you know. Like usually the way that I shoot these is I do the screen cap that night before bed at like 2:30 in the morning, and then I get up the next morning, I narrate them, and I chop all the video at like 11 and get them out. So that's generally how these work. But yeah, so there you go, guys. That's how you make 808s from scratch. That's two really simple ways. Sample packs I will link below for you guys. You can grab the free Knockout 808 pack, which is all these 808s that I made. There's 10 808s in this pack. Each one of them is labeled as a boxer. So you've got things like the Tyson, the Mayweather, the Jones Jr., all these boxers who are named, you know, all these 808s named after boxers. And each one of them is done that way so that they're clear and concise and quick. Quick flow was what I was really going for, because I hate like digging through endless amounts of 808s. So I made this pack of 10 808s that I really, really like. They were 808s that I use all the time, and that's what the Knockout 808 pack became. And then I chose the Knockout setup with the boxer names because it was a quick, easy way. You knew, hey, I want something that's quick, punchy, hard hitting. Well, then you want a Tyson 808. So it was just that kind of simplicity that I brought to it. So yeah, I'll link that below, and that'll give you guys some more 808s. That'll give you guys kind of an idea too. You can look at some of the waveforms in my 808s and see like, oh, well, this is how he shapes his 808s. Okay, so let's try working with this. Let's try and getting them to this kind of shape, whatever it may be. But yeah, guys, I'm Deexypher. This was episode 3. I know it was a short one this week or today. I will see you tomorrow for the next one. I'm not going to tease what the next episode is, honestly, because I don't want to end up like the snare situation where I said we were doing snares yesterday and we didn't do snares today. So I'm not going to tease what the next one is. Just know that there is a new episode tomorrow. We'll have episode 4 will be out. And this weekend I've got some special content coming for you guys. I want to talk about some things for, you know, some music producer advice, musician advice, stuff like that. How to make your workflow a lot better. How to not have the cards stacked against you as much when you jump into the studio. How you should really start off every studio session. How I start off every studio session. I'm going to go through all that stuff with you guys this weekend. So make sure, if this helped, you drop a like. Please subscribe. Hit that little bell. I don't know if these things are in the right spot that I'm pointing to. I hope they are. Do all that fun YouTube stuff for me. Drop a comment if you're anticipating the free sample pack that'll come at the end of this series. Also, let me know if you're going to jump over to BeatStars and grab any of those free sample packs I have up there, guys. You can't miss out on those. There's also a whole series of $2 sample packs, which is like these little mini packs of loops and things. So you guys make sure you jump over there and check that all out. All right, guys, I'm Deexypher, and I will see you in the next one.